Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Mesdames et messieurs, Barbie et Ken, Kelly de Tourage, et tous les autres. Welcome to Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and with me I have my wonderful co-host. Is it just me, or does he seem a little serious for a guy wearing a weenie suit? John!
Oui, oui. Weenie.
For those of you just joining us, we are a podcast about Barbie movies. Each week we watch one of the straight-to-DVD animated Barbie movies, and we rate its story, characters, animation, voice acting, and music to see how it stacks up. This week we will be talking about the 18th animated Barbie movie, and the, I believe, second movie that takes place in France, if you couldn't tell from our introduction, Barbie, a Fashion Fairy Tale.
Fashion.
Indeed. So, this is, we're 18 movies in, pretty far
18.
here. Yeah, and this movie was released on September 14th, 2010 on home media, and then it aired on Nickelodeon November 21st, so little ways later. And it was directed by William Lau. He's returning, he's done a lot of these movies, and written by Elise Allen, also returning, also has done a lot of these movies, and with music by B.C. Smith, he's a newer addition to the team. He did the music for the last movie as well. Then there's also some original songs, which we'll talk about later, I think. But yeah, it is the most meta Barbie movie we've seen thus far.
Sure.
Because the story here is that Barbie is the main character, and she's an actress who acts in these movies, and we actually see posters for other previous Barbie movies in her trailer. But she gets fired from an acting job, and her boyfriend Ken breaks up with her. And sort of at her lowest point, she gets encouraged by her friends to visit her Aunt Millicent, who runs a fashion house in Paris. Millicent has fallen on tough times, and she's about to sell her fashion house to the company Hot Dogateria, which, yeah, quite the name.
Quite the name.
Especially when they bring it up first, it's in a French accent. It's Hot Dogateria.
I don't know if I'd go just for the hot dogs.
Yeah. At first I thought it was a rival fashion house, but no, it's just like a hot dog cafeteria. But anyway, Barbie and Alice, who's Millicent's assistant, discover this magic wardrobe inhabited by 3 fairies, which are magical beings. They aren't fairies, because they don't have wings, but they're called fairies because they enhance garments that inspire them. And their magic is tied to this fashion house that's being sold, so the group decide to put on a last fashion show to buy back the property. Meanwhile, Ken, who didn't actually break up with Barbie, he gets stuck in the plot of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as he tries to reach Paris to set the record straight.
He does, yes.
Yeah, they're constantly cutting back to him throughout this whole story. And things are going well for Barbie and everyone else until Jacqueline, a rival fashion designer, steals the fairies to put on her own fashion show, but it fails since the fairies weren't inspired by the designs. So Millicent's show is a success, and they get all of the money back to buy the property, and Ken shows up at the last moment and reconciles with Barbie, and they all go to a party at the castle from the Three Musketeers movie.
Yes. It's also somewhat revealed that all these past films are actually acted by this Barbie.
Yes. We are seeing the behind the scenes here.
Yes.
Yeah, it is the most meta of any of these Barbie movies thus far. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that, this is the first movie where Kelly Sheridan was not brought back to play the Barbie character.
Right.
And then in this movie, it starts with Barbie getting fired. I thought, is there something going on there?
It's really more of an allegory of their change in content, because it starts out with the fairy tale type story, and it's revealed to be, no, it's real life. We're switching away from these type of films. Let's do fashion instead.
Yeah, it's sort of because they start out on the set of Princess and the Pea.
Mm-hmm.
And then zombie peas show up, and Barbie isn't too happy
And start
about that.
rapping.
Yeah.
In 2010. What is this, the 90s?
Yeah, it's an odd scene, but it starts out the movie very
It's
strongly.
very outdated, my goodness.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Even in 2010, this is so outdated.
But then at the same time, I think there are elements that are actually maybe more relevant now. There's this thing of when Barbie's fired, there's this sort of online response to
it. Right, yeah.
It's sort of this. They even bring up Twitter directly, which who knows if that will be outdated in a few weeks or a few months or something. But for now, as of recording this episode, it's still relevant.
Somewhat.
Yes. And yeah, I don't know. I thought those meta elements were kind of fun here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it even gets into these questions about artistry and audience, and sort of the message of the movie is being true to yourself as the purest form of, well, in this case, fashion, but sort of this artistic expression as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the end of the movie, Barbie has been brought back to direct her own movie. So don't think that will be affecting the real world directing here, but kind of a full circle moment.
Right. We'll see what happens in the next film.
Yeah. And as you said, sort of the symbol of this new direction that they're taking things in. But yeah, as for the story itself, it's kind of a simple story, but I liked it.
It is very simple.
It's the classic save the business type story.
Yeah, with magic just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just kind of stuck onto the plot like glitter.
It's like, okay, let's do... okay, we're going to do these dresses. By the way, I'm reading this book about magic. And it just so happens that our store has this thing that has these magic fairies.
Not fairies.
Flairies.
Very important distinction, apparently.
Right, also just very convenient.
Yes. Yeah, I think the flairies are one of the... they're a bit of an unnecessary element here.
It's like they were writing this as they were going on along.
Yeah.
You know.
I almost wonder if they were added on to be sort of a transition between sort of these fantasy Barbie movies and now presumably going forward what are going to be more based in real life type.
Right,
Barbie
but they
stuff.
also want to get more of that quote unquote fairy merch.
Yes.
That was still going on at the time.
Yeah, the flary merch,
yes,
perhaps,
yes.
for this one.
Right, but I have... Why is nobody questioning these flairies showing up at the fashion show? It's like, why are these lights flying around? What are those bugs? What the heck? That dress turned into a different dress? What is this? Why is that boy's shirt turned into a suit? What is going on? At least they somewhat questioned the limos turning into carriages, but then they just move on along, and they learn how to ride horses very quick.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely, you have to go in and kind of suspend your disbelief for some of this. Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if... Well, I do think this movie would have worked without the flairies being involved at all.
A bit more boring.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of felt like... I guess they do have...
It adds a conflict.
Mini arc. Yeah.
It adds a conflict by having them there. It also adds a resolution.
Yes. Kind of.
So, it's an easy way to do things.
I mean, yeah, back to kind of the story... I think there's a lot of fun supporting characters here.
Sure.
And even the message of the story kind of influences each character in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's sort of, as I said earlier, it's about being true to yourself and expressing yourself. And Barbie's dog Sequin brings it up, but then it kind of gets brought back in different ways.
Right.
Barbie is sort of, she wants to direct her own movies, but the director who's on her Princess of the Pea movie doesn't like her ideas, so he fires her. And then we have Elise, who's the assistant at this fashion house, and her whole plot line is she's very unsure of herself and her own fashion designs. But then through sort of being true to herself and embracing her ability to design fashion, she actually saves the fashion house. And then it even ties into the villain's plotline, Jacqueline, who she fails because her work is not authentic to herself. She's copying other people's work. So that kind of leads to her downfall and then eventual sort of hint at redemption near the end.
Glimmer has a story arc as well.
Yeah, and hers is also sort of tied to her finding her purpose as a Flairy. And then realizing that she herself is a designer, not an enhancer.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Well, it's the difference between making the dress and dipping
But
the
what
dress
is she
in a vat
gonna
of glitter
do
glue.
practically?
Yeah, I don't know. The magic of the Flairies isn't really ever explained or explored. It's just kind of they throw glitter on everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then apparently that makes everything better.
Sure.
Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about with the story is Ken's subplot,
Oh, yes.
which I don't know. I just had so much fun every time they cut away to him.
Is this the first Ken that we've actually had? Like an actual Ken?
Yeah, the first Ken named Ken, because in Barbie Diaries, there wasn't a Ken named Ken.
No. We've been calling all of them Ken for
Yeah,
all these films.
That's
But here we have an
basically-
actual Ken, and it's like, Ken! We have an actual Ken in this film.
Yeah, and he ends up being one of the more compelling parts of the movie,
A bit.
where they know exactly when to cut back to him to keep things exciting with the main plot. Like, each time they cut back to him, there's something funny going on.
Right. He makes a
Kind of.
child cry.
Yep.
I was waiting for the mother to show up and be mad at Ken. That the child is just left alone.
Yeah, what was that child doing by himself on that plane? Although I guess Ken is also technically a minor.
Oh.
Even
Yeah.
though, yeah, he and Barbie don't act more like adults than kids, but
Why are they allowed to do things?
yeah, I think Barbie's supposed to be 16 and Ken's supposed to be 17, and they both just
Paris.
yeah, they
by
both just
herself.
fly out of the country by themselves. And Barbie has like a full-time acting career and also full-time school. But yeah, it's a movie, so they can kind of get away with that kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah.
I think it just goes back to what we said in the beginning. It's simple.
Yeah.
It might be a good symbol for you. I would have liked something more.
Yeah, for me, the two different plots going on at the same time kind of they didn't really add to each other's complexity, but cutting back and forth, I think they did that very well in a way that kept the energy up and kept the movie flowing. So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 because it was too simple of a story concept. It had to happen once because Barbie in fashion, but still.
Yeah. Now,
The
speaking
fashion show itself took a long time.
yeah, I mean they were building up to it, so it didn't bother me that much.
It got to a point where it's like, okay, can we move on now? I get it. Dresses, pretty, sparkle.
Yeah, we'll talk about the actual dresses once we get to animation, because
Sure.
But yeah, speaking of Barbie, she's the first character on our list. She's really more of a point of view character here. Like, she doesn't have that much of an arc.
It starts out with something, but then she gets put to the side for everyone else.
Yeah, and I mean, she does have, like, looking at the whole movie, she has an arc where she starts out, she's, her acting career isn't going the way she wanted because she isn't able to make sort of the creative decisions she wants to. And then at the end of the movie, she gets hired as a director. So that is somewhat of an arc. But yeah, it's like the first 10 minutes of the movie are the setup for her arc, and then the last 2 minutes of the movie are the payoff. And in between, there isn't a lot of movement for her. She's just kind of supporting the characters around her.
Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of, first we have Elise, who's the French assistant at this fashion house.
Yeah.
She's an interesting character. I think she might be the best character in the movie, though it's a close race with Ken. She's initially very unsure of herself, but her arc in the movie is sort of growing in this confidence and learning both learning to express herself and then also taking inspiration from the things around her. Yeah, I don't know. I thought, especially since the message of this movie is about self-expression and yeah, I found her arc compelling here.
I think that her arc worked for the story. I personally didn't really find her that compelling. I thought she was fine. She did her job of being the shy, insecure about herself. So, no, she's fine.
No, I will say Ken's got to watch out because there's definitely something going on between her and Barbie. They even have like the classic meet cute where they run into each other and drop everything they're holding.
Whatever you say.
Like they ride around Paris on like a scooter.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very romantic thing to do. But yeah, Ken, I found him a compelling character as well. He's dorky in the best way. Yeah, I don't know how to put it beyond that. He's just kind of everything he tries to do inevitably goes wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but he still perseveres.
Does Barbie not have caller ID?
Apparently not. I don't know exactly what technology these Barbie movies are using.
Right.
His
How?
last movie. Oh, go ahead.
But I don't know how the phone call happened.
Yeah. So it must have been that. Yeah, because that's one of those moments where like they introduce this random kid and Ken who she's running lines with Ken and then recording them and then plays them back.
You immediately know.
Yeah.
Like, she probably did it.
And I thought she was going to be like the villain of the story because she's introduced before the actual villain of the story is introduced. Right. But no, she's just in that one scene.
Right.
So I guess she like got a hold of Ken's phone for long enough to prank Barbie. But then even like what's the point of her prank? Like, is she trying to sabotage the relationship because she's in love with Ken?
We don't know. It's just there to have the conflict.
Yeah.
And Barbie's friends disappear as well.
Yep. They just I don't think they even show up at the end for the fashion show.
Well, they watch it. Live stream.
Oh, they do?
They
watch it on the live stream. Yeah, Ken and Barbie are kind of the only ones who stick around from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ken's misadventures are, I think, my favorite part of the movie.
Especially since, I know a little bit about Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Just hearing all these Pennsylvania names is like, okay. I see. That's where you're at.
Yep. And he starts out on a plane, and then plane gets grounded, and then has to go in this car, and then gets on a train and falls asleep and goes to the last stop and has to try and get back. And I don't know exactly. Oh no, he takes a cab back.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he gets out, he rips his pants, then gets on a plane to Paris, and then he gets stuck in a different cab, and the cab has a flat tire. And when he finally shows up, everything turns out all right. But
Right.
I don't know. I just like that kind of like series of misadventures.
Yeah, it's a better bit of levity than what we get for the pets.
Yeah, the pets are something.
Yeah, they're always something. These past few films haven't been doing them that great. They're just there.
Yeah, I think here Sequin, who's Barbie's dog, is
Mm-hmm.
both better designed and less annoying than a lot of these animal sidekicks have been.
Sure.
And she even introduces the message of the movie. And then I think the cat has like a few good moments,
Mm-hmm.
but the dog romance is just, you could have cut that out easily.
You could have cut them all out, really.
Yeah.
The only thing they really do is shave the flaries.
Yeah. And that you could even cut out the one dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like just have Barbie's dog and the cat.
The villains don't even have animals.
Yeah. Which that's somewhat uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of the villains, we can jump over to them. We
Okay.
have Jacqueline. She's the leader of these two villains.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was fun. She's different than any villain we've seen before.
She's a fashion villain.
Yeah. And even just in the way she comports herself.
Right.
And yeah, I actually think like her fashion holds up better than the rest of the fashion in the movie, even though she's supposed to be, though it is all very like of its time.
Right. I think her fashion says more French than our main other fashion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that they give her a redemption arc.
But anyway, Jacqueline has a sidekick called Delphine.
Yes. She's the classic sort of underappreciated sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the Jacqueline doesn't really pay any attention to her.
Right.
Even I like the bit with the binoculars where Jacqueline is unknowingly choking Delphine. It doesn't really seem to care about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Besides that, she doesn't really have much of a character.
No.
No, someone with slightly more character is Aunt Millicent, who is an icon. When she roller skated into the movie, I knew she was going to be a great character.
I didn't really care about her.
I thought she was so much fun.
Mm.
I like this sort of gimmick that she's trying to find a different hobby for her retirement every time we see her.
I really saw her as a gimmick.
Okay. I mean, you kind of have to have her there to be the owner of the fashion house.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just thought every time she was on screen, she added a lot of energy to the story. Yeah, she's also in running to be my favorite character in the movie.
Okay.
She reminded me a bit of the grandpa from the last movie, just in terms of like her
No, I
temperament.
agree. I got the same feeling. Except I felt like this one they were trying to make her seem like a cool aunt.
Yeah, I thought she was genuinely a cool ad, not just
Okay.
that they were trying to. But yeah, last up on my list, I have the Fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Who they're less annoying than they could have been.
Sure. They're there. They
Yep.
sparkle things.
Yep. And you mentioned Glimmer's sort of subplot. I
Subplot.
do think that, well, maybe subplot.
Yeah.
I do like that they gave her something to do, and she's the only of the Fairies that actually stands out much as like an individual. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with the instinct that they have to glitterize everything.
Right. I don't know what it does. It just looks like glitter. In a
Yep.
slightly brighter and shinier shade, but that's it.
Yeah. But honestly, maybe besides the one dog, there aren't any characters in this movie that I dislike.
Maybe the director.
Yeah, but you're
But
supposed to dislike
he's
him.
written to be that way, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, who doesn't like zombie peas?
I don't.
Yeah, I guess they are an odd idea. I thought it was a funny moment, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely bad judgment as a director on his part. But yeah, I don't know. I found these characters interesting, and I like that a lot of them had subplots. So
Yeah.
I gave the characters a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5. While I'm not as intrigued by them, there is a little more effort put into making them unique in a way.
Yeah. Now on to the animation.
Animation. First one makes sense.
Yeah, it's a bit hit or miss here.
It does its job
Yeah.
of being there.
I think anytime they show it raining, it looks spectacular. Like there are shots of Barbie walking around Paris while it's raining with her umbrella, and that is the best the movie looks.
That one shot, yeah, I agree.
Even just her in Paris wandering the streets when it's raining. I think the lighting is more dynamic. It's a little bit, the colors pop more. And there's even a later scene when Ken is being driven to a train by a farmer where it's raining, and I thought they did like a wide shot, and I thought that looked pretty good.
Okay.
But anytime they're in broad daylight, it's a little bit less flattering, especially the streets of Paris.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting just isn't very dynamic. There aren't a ton of shadows, and the colors are very flat. And Paris doesn't really look much like Paris. Was there a shot of the Eiffel Tower even? Not that that would be more Parisian.
From a
but
distance, from a huge
Yeah.
distance. When Ken shows up.
Yeah, because everything is like pastel, bright colors.
Yeah.
The streets are pink.
The streets are pink, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd design choice, and it probably makes things like visually a bit more engaging for kids. But I would have liked to see what they could have done with a more realistic approach, because that might make the fashion stand out a bit more if it's contrasted with the sort of more rounded portrayal of Paris.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought the character models actually looked pretty great.
They're okay. They work, as usual.
Yeah. I think especially the major characters.
Mm, sure.
Yeah, it isn't nearly at the level as some of these other Barbie movies that we've
Right,
seen, but
yeah.
it's better than some of the other Barbie movies we've seen as well.
Yes and no. Yeah.
But yeah, do we want to jump into the fashion itself?
I thought the fashion was just fine.
Okay.
A lot of designs were simple.
Yeah, it's very of its time.
I think that the designs were better before the glitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not have a medical degree in fashion from France, but
Yeah, nor do I have a lawyer degree in fashion from France, but
yeah, the fashion is like, and it's also, this is designed for kids. So maybe putting glitter on things as a kid, you're more into that idea than sort of even as a teenager, which these characters, a lot of them are.
mm-hmm.
Now, it is worth noting, one of the bonus features on the DVD that I was watching through was with an interview with the fashion designer for this movie. And she is an actual fashion designer who worked on Barbie doll lines as well. So the fashion in this movie is actual.
Toys.
Yeah, well, not even just actual toys. It is an actual fashion designer coming in and sort of responding to the trends of the time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not quite my style. It's very much like that late 2000s, early 2010s, and then everything has been dipped in glitter glue.
Right, yeah. I gave the animation a 3.5. It is as solid as usual.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think because of those few shots of Paris when it's raining. I think that bumps up my score a bit. Whereas I wasn't nearly as impressed with the animation as I have been in some of the other recent movies. Yeah, on to the voice acting.
Okay, this should be interesting.
Yeah, Kelly's gone.
She is gone. Yes. Tis a shame.
Anyone who hasn't listened to our last episode, I can give you the brief summary. Kelly Sheridan was not brought back for this movie. Sort of, Mattel wanted to take the series in a different direction that was more modern and more focused on fashion. So, as part of that, Kelly Sheridan was not invited back for this movie, and instead they have Diana Karina,
Mm-hmm.
who I thought she did a good job.
I thought she did a good job trying.
Okay.
I will not fault her performance. She does a good performance. But I don't hear Barbie in this performance. And this is just one of those things where there are some characters you have a voice for them in your mind. I don't think this quite matches. It tries to get there, but it's not quite there. Uh, even back when we listened to Nutcracker, I could hear Kelly and think, yeah, that sounds like a Barbie. This, I don't I don't hear that. It's the same with like characters like Spider-Man. There's been many voice actors to play Spider-Man. Half of them I'm like, yeah, this is great. Other half I'm like, I don't see it. So here I think she does a good job, but I don't think she quite nails Barbie.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I didn't really notice it nearly as much. Um, and it is worth noting, this is actually, she had only been in 5 other projects prior to this movie. So this is relatively early in her career that she's
Yeah.
doing this movie. So maybe it's going to take her a little bit to adapt to it, though.
Yeah, later in a My Little Pony spin-off film, she and Kelly Sheridan both play villains of a film
Okay,
together.
that's neat.
So it is neat.
Are there any references to their Barbie 10-year or?
I don't think so. I mean, no, I think we just have to, if we ever watch that, that's just what it is.
Okay. Yeah. Now, another performance I did want to spotlight is Alex Petru, who plays Ken. And I thought he was phenomenal here. This is the first of 5 Barbie movies he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And he really captures what you want from the Ken voice.
Does he?
For me, at least.
Okay. I don't really have a Ken voice.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific,
he's not the roguish the hero that we have for our fairy tale stories. He does have a similar performance to the Barbie Diaries love interest.
Which, yeah, since they're going in a more modern direction, it makes sense that
it does.
Yeah, a lot of returning voices here.
As usual, yeah.
You know, I was actually noticing I was on my personal Letterboxd account where I have my statistics for the year, and it tells me which actors I have seen most in movies in a year, and mine are all, I believe it's like 20 or 25 actors that show up. All but one are from these Barbie movies. And the one lone person holding down the fort is Tilda Swinton, who is not in any of the Barbie movies. But I may have to post the image on one of our social media sites because it's like, oh yeah, I've seen 17 movies with Kelly Sheridan this year. But yeah, it is, we have had a lot of these same performers coming back over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is kind of interesting to see who they get cast as, and I'm even starting to recognize some voices when they pop up.
Right.
Chiara Zani plays one of the Fairies, and I instantly recognized her voice here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
No, she has a very unique voice. So
I also heard Andrea Libman because she uses a lot of the same voice.
Okay, yeah. Tabitha St. Germain is here.
Yeah.
Candice McClure.
Mm-hmm. It should be interesting to see, because around this time is when Pony starts.
Okay.
So
see if we start getting new voice actors as
less of our big names.
Yeah.
Like Tabitha.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those cross over.
Yeah. Who knows? They might go with a different studio in the future.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the voice acting in the later Barbie movies, so I'll have to see. No, my oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Now, my last thought here with the voice acting, I was surprised by the accent work here. Some of the accents were a bit iffy, but overall it didn't bother me too much.
It's better than Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the accents were fine this time around. I mean, I'm not really bothered by accents in general, but they put some more effort in this.
Yeah, or it could just be that I'm less familiar with the French accent, so I didn't notice as much. But yeah, right. I thought nothing took me out of the movie as much as the accents in Mariposa did. So overall, I gave the voice acting a 4 out of 5. Just really solid all around. Even though Diana Carina is kind of still finding her footing as Barbie.
Yeah, which is why I give it a 3.5, which is still solid, but not quite as strong as it could be.
Yeah. Now, last up, we have music. And the background score is once again a little bit forgettable.
A bit.
But this movie has a ton of original songs. And I thought quite a few of them were fun. My favorites here. Oh, go ahead.
They fit the style.
Yeah. My favorites here are Life is a Fairy Tale, which is the opening song that's sung by Tiffany Giardina. Then we also have Another Me. This is Barbie's sort of traveling song, sung by Lindsay Sorensen. I was not as big a fan of Get Your Sparkle On by Rachel Bearer. That one was maybe a little bit tipped into the area of being annoying, but I could see how it would, as like a kid, it really gets you in. And then there's also Un Bon Journée by Simon Wilcox, which is sort of this, as they're exploring Paris, and it's actually in French, or I believe it's in French. I don't know enough French to say if it actually was, but it sounded like it was in French.
That's all that matters.
Yep. And then this isn't a specific song, but the music that they play when Barbie is on the runway, I thought that was kind of a fun little medley of music.
The only piece of music that took me out of the film was Who Let the Dogs Out.
Yeah.
During the fashion show, when the dogs had their own little too long bit.
Yeah. That was the part of the runway medley that didn't work quite as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the rest of it was fun. And I might, so some of these Barbie movies I've gone back and listened to the music. And this one, I might be listening to a few songs in the future. Specifically, I think Life is a Fairy Tale is a fun one. And Another Me.
Not Another You.
Yeah, overall I gave the music a 4.5 out of 5. Again, the score itself isn't great, but these original songs really added something for me.
Yeah. Originally, mine was going to be 3.5, but as soon as I heard that Who Let the Dogs Out, it went down to 3.3.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to criticism.
Because the moment itself just isn't great. Which leaves my total 16.8, which is 67%, which is a 3.4 5-star rating.
Yep, I have a 21 out of 25 total, which is an 84% or a 4.2, and that leaves us with an average of 18.9 or 75.6, which is on our 5-point scale. That's a 3.78, which lands this movie just beneath Mariposa and Swan Lake in our rankings overall. So sort of middle of the pack here, though.
I can believe it, yeah.
Yeah. For me, I believe it falls in my top half. For you, maybe in the bottom half.
Lower half, yeah.
Kind of hits the solid middle when we average it out.
Yeah. After 18 films.
Yeah. I don't know. I went into this because it's the sort of new era of Barbie movies that I'm less familiar with. I went in very worried. I mean, the title Fashion Fairy Tale wasn't giving me a lot of hope. So I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did.
I was expecting something worse, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that stays true. Any thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, let's just wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to follow us on social media. We are Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram, at Binging Barbie on Twitter, assuming that Twitter is still a thing when this episode comes out, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast on Letterboxd. There you can find an up-to-date list of all of our Barbie movie rankings. And join us next week for our discussion of Barbie, A Fairy Secret. Will it impress us as much as this did, or will it live up to our less than stellar expectations.
Will
We'll
it be
have
a
to see.
secret?
Yeah. Well, we may have to not air that episode to not let the secret out.
Right.
Well, join us next week to see if we actually talk about the movie at all, or if it's a secret too good to reveal.